Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Chahrani Nur Khalifa, English Education Department student, Tarbiyah Faculty, State Islamic Institute of Parepare. I'm here to talk about analysis sociolinguistic aspect on local language, especially in South Sulawesi. Sociolinguistics is a branch of linguistics that studies the relationship between language and society. This field examines how social structures such as class, ethnicity, and gender influence the form and function of language in daily life. Holmes states that sociolinguistics discusses how language variation reflects social factors and how people use language differently in certain contexts. This understanding is essential in education as students' social backgrounds often create their own challenges in language teaching. In sociolinguistics, there are aspects, and I will talk about three aspects in sociolinguistics. There is language variation, language attitudes, and code switching. Language variation refers to differences in language use caused by geographical factors such as dialect, social factors or sociolects, or situational factors or registers. In South Sulawesi, for example, the Bugis language spoken in Pindrang differs lexically from that used in Bone. Werdauck and Fuller explain that language variation reflects the diversity of identity and social experience. In classroom context, this diversity sometimes creates gaps in understanding between students and teachers, especially when the material is delivered without considering the students' language variations. The next one is language attitudes. Language attitudes refer to users' views, judgment, or feelings toward a particular language. These attitudes can be positive or negative and greatly influence one's success in learning another language. Garrett emphasizes that language attitudes directly affect learning motivation. Students with positive attitudes toward English will be more motivated to learn and use the language actively. Conversely, negative attitudes can hinder students' engagement in learning. Next, code switching. Code switching occurs when a speaker shifts from one language to another in a single context or conversation. In bilingual and multilingual communities, code switching is a common phenomenon. According to Mushkin, code switch can reflect a person's linguistic flexibility. Meanwhile, Fassel and Conner-Linton stress that code switching can aid learning if used wisely, but can be obstacle if it leads to excessive dependence. Now we're gonna talking about sociolinguistic aspect of local languages in South Sulawesi, especially at Bugis Pindrang and Bugis Bone. Language variation refers to differences in linguistic features across regions, social group, or contexts. According to Werdauck and Fuller, this variation can be phonological, lexical, or syntactic. In South Sulawesi, Bugis speakers from Bone and Pindrang demonstrate distinct dialectical characteristics. For instance, the word for we exclusive in Bone Bugis is often pronounced as idito, while in Pindrang, the same meaning might be conveyed with a different lexical or pragmatic expression. Furthermore, Bugis Bone tends to retain more classical forms and honorific expression, reflecting its historical role as a cultural center, while Bugis Pindrang exhibits more colloquial usage due to its closer contact with other language groups. In the classroom context, this variation influences how students understand English grammar. A Bugis Bone speaker might struggle with English pronoun use due to politeness level embedded in their native dialect, while a Pindrang speaker might face difficulties due to simplification of sentence structures in everyday speech. Teachers who are unaware of this linguistic background may misinterpret students' error as a lack of competence rather than interference from their L1. The next one is language attitude in Bugis Bone and Bugis Pinrang. It involves a person's feelings, beliefs, and predispositions toward a language. In South Sulawesi, students' attitudes toward English are shaped by various factors, including the passive status of language, parental support, and the degree of exposure outside the classroom. In many rural areas, particularly in Pinrang, students view English as distant from their culture, identity, and daily life. English is often seen as a school subject rather than a useful communication tool. On the other hand, in Bone, which has more exposure to national and international networks due to migration and education, students may exhibit slightly more positive attitudes. These differing attitudes create disparities in motivation and classroom participation. As Holmes states, learners with positive language attitudes are more likely to engage actively in language learning. Teachers must navigate these differences sensitively using culturally relevant materials and encouraging activities that promote positive perception of English. The next is code switching. Code switching is the alternating use of two or more languages or dialect within a conversation or discourse. In South Sulawesi classroom, students frequently switch between Bugis, Indonesian, and English. This practice can serve various functions: clarifying meaning, expressing emotion, or maintaining social rapport. For example, a student may answer an English question with "Yes, miss, tapi saya lupa jawabannya." "Yes, miss, but I forgot the answer." This shows that the student is engaged but lacks full of proficiency. Code switching, while often a helpful scaffold in early learning stage, can become a crutch if not managed properly. It may limit students' ability to think fully in English and interfere with target language acquisition. In comparing Bone and Pinrang, students from Bone, who often exhibit higher language awareness, may use code switching more strategically. In contrast, Pinrang students might rely on it due to limited English exposure and confidence. Teachers must design strategies that gradually reduce reliance on L1 and L2, promoting immersion in English while respecting students' linguistic identities. There are three main challenges emerged in teaching English in multilingual classroom in South Sulawesi. The first one is negative language attitudes. Many students see English as irrelevant, especially in areas where local identity is strongly tied to the native language. Teachers need to foster a more positive and integrative view of English by connecting it to students' interests and aspiration. The next one is over-dependent on code switching. Although helpful initially, excessive code switching may hinder full engagement with the target language. Teachers should adopt gradual and immersion techniques using code switching only as a bridge. And the last one is misalignment due to language variation. Teachers may not be aware of the regional dialectical influences that affect students' English learning. Understanding these variations can help tailor instruction and prevent misjudgment of students' abilities. In conclusion, these three aspects significantly shape how students interact with English and present unique challenges to educators. Addressing these challenges requires not only linguistic awareness, but also pedagogical flexibility. Teachers must acknowledge the socio-cultural and linguistic backgrounds of their students to create inclusive, effective learning environments. Only by embracing the complexity of multilingualism can English language instruction truly empower learners in South Sulawesi. Maybe that's all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.